I was slammed face down on an airport floor before anyone bothered to check who I was, cuffs tight, cheek pressed against cold tile, strangers filming like I was the criminal of the week. And the wildest part is, I kept telling them they had the wrong guy, and they kept telling me I didn't look like someone they should believe. Yeah, that happened. And I swear to you, I woke up that morning thinking the biggest problem in my day would be stale airport coffee or a delayed flight, not whether my career and dignity were about to get dragged across a terminal in front of a crowd. I'd been traveling on official orders, dressed the way I always dress when I'm on assignment posture, straight paperwork squared away, moving through the terminal like a man who's done this 100 times because I had. And nothing about me felt tense or rushed. Just another traveler blending into the hum of rolling suitcases and boarding calls until this voice cut through everything sharp as broken glass. Stop right there. You ever hear authority in a voice before you even turn around? I did. I turned, slow hands visible out of habit, and there he was, officer standing tall like he'd just spotted a threat nobody else could see. Eyes locked on me, jaw tight, hand hovering near his belt like he wanted me to give him a reason. I said, calm as, "Sunday morning. Morning, officer, what's going on?" He didn't answer that, just nodded toward my hands like I hadn't already shown them. Keep those where I can see them. Now, when somebody says that in an airport people notice, you can feel the air shift. Conversations soften, footsteps slow. And I knew right then this wasn't going to be a simple hello and goodbye. I told him, steady voice, "I'm a federal officer traveling on orders. I can show you my credentials." He looked me up and down like I'd told him I was an astronaut. "You don't look like one." And there it was. Not suspicion, not procedure, just a picture in his head that didn't match what he saw in front of him. I reached slowly into my jacket, 2 fingers, careful, deliberate, the way training teaches you when someone with a badge is already tense. "Credentials right here. You can verify through dispatch if you want." He didn't take it, didn't even glance, just said bag on the ground. So I set it down easy, controlled, no attitude, because I wasn't about to give him a single excuse to say I was resisting. I told him, "Sir, standard protocol is, you call it in, confirm it, and I'll be on my way." He stepped closer, real close, like he wanted to test whether I'd flinch. Or I search it now and save us time. I shook my head slightly. "I'm not refusing, I'm asking you to follow procedure." That's when his tone changed, not louder, just colder like a switch flipped. "You're being detained." His partner shifted beside him, silent backup arms, stiff eyes scanning like he was already backing the story before it was written. I kept my voice level. "There's no reason to detain me." He grabbed my wrist anyway. People think escalation looks dramatic, shouting chaos, but most of the time it's quiet. It's a decision somebody makes in their head when they'd rather be right than be accurate. I didn't pull back, didn't tense, didn't argue, because I knew something he didn't know yet. There were cameras around us, lots of them travelers holding phones, lenses pointed like witnesses that don't blink. He leaned in and said low, "You really thought you could walk through here dressed like that?" I answered just as low, "I'm dressed like this because I earned it." That line hit him. I could see it, little twitch in his cheek. Pride pricked, and suddenly this wasn't about checking ID anymore. It was about proving he was in charge. "Get on the ground," he said. I paused, half a breath, not resisting, just registering the absurdity of it. Then he forced my shoulder down, tile slamming into my cheek, cuffs snapping on my wrists, while people gasped and somebody whispered, "Is he serious?" I stayed still, breathing slow, heart steady, because panic helps nobody and I wasn't about to perform for his ego. He started talking above me, telling his partner he'd caught another fake voice loud enough for the crowd, building his version before anyone checked facts, and I just lay there thinking how fast a moment can flip from routine to ridiculous when somebody decides they don't believe what's right in front of them. Time stretched, sneakers passing inches from my face, rolling luggage wheels clicking by, murmurs floating overhead like static, and I remember thinking, this is how stories start that shouldn't exist. Then I heard another voice, calm, firm, the kind that doesn't need volume to carry authority. "What's going on here, supervisor? You can always tell." She didn't puff up, didn't bark orders, just stepped in and assessed. The officer launched into his explanation, fast words, stacking on top of each other, trying to frame it before she could ask questions. But she lifted a hand slightly and said, "I'll ask him." She crouched so I could see her face. Neutral expression, professional eyes. "Sir, do you have identification?" I nodded toward my pocket. "Left side. Credentials and orders." She pulled them out, scanned once, then again slower, and I watched the moment recognition replaced assumption, her shoulders settling, posture shifting just a touch. She stood and said, "Take the cuffs off." The officer hesitated. Not long, just enough to show ego wrestling instruction. She didn't raise her voice. Now, metal loosened, pressure gone. I stood up slow, brushing dust from my sleeve, not glaring, not smirking, just breathing because dignity doesn't need theatrics. She asked me a couple quick questions, verifying details, then spoke into her radio voice, calm and precise, requesting confirmation. 30 seconds later, it came back exactly like I'd said from the start. Legitimate, authorized, documented. She looked at the officers. "You detained a federal agent with valid credentials." Silence hit like a dropped curtain. The first officer tried, "Ma'am, I was being cautious." She cut him off gently but firmly. Caution is verification, not force. You could feel that line land. Even the crowd shifted, phones tilting closer. Within minutes, a senior commander arrived. Expression tight, spoke with her first, then turned to me and said, "Sir, I apologize for what happened." I nodded. "I'd like all recordings preserved, body cam, surveillance, dispatch, audio," he said, "already in progress." That's when it clicked for the officer that this wasn't disappearing. His shoulders stiffened. Partner staring at the floor like tile suddenly got interesting. The commander told them right there in front of everybody, "You're both off duty pending review." Same floor they'd pinned me to, same audience. They walked off silent, and I picked up my bag, checked my watch, realized I could still make my flight, which felt almost funny in that surreal way life keeps moving even when yours just slammed into a wall. A woman who'd been filming lowered her phone and said softly, "You handled that really well." I gave her a small smile. Documentation handles it better. And that's the truth, you know what I mean. Because moments like that don't end when you leave the terminal. They follow paperwork, footage, reports. By afternoon, investigators were already reviewing video, and video doesn't forget tone, posture, timing, all the things people try to rewrite later. Questions stacked fast. Why ignore credentials? Why refuse verification? Why escalate force on someone compliant? Why did the partner stand there and say nothing? I gave my statement clean and chronological, no drama, just facts, because facts don't need decoration. The footage backed every word, their reports didn't. When a story and a recording disagree, the recording wins. Weeks later, the findings came down. Lead officer terminated. Certification review. Career effectively done. Partner disciplined, demoted, retrained, permanent mark for failing to intervene. Some folks said that was harsh. I said it was arithmetic. Actions plus evidence equals outcome. I went back to work, same badge, same duties, same quiet mornings, but something inside me had sharpened. Not anger, just clarity, because lying on that floor, hearing strangers whisper, while somebody decided you didn't fit their idea of who you should be, that sticks with you. What protected me wasn't rank, wasn't the uniform, wasn't even the badge in my pocket. It was procedure, oversight, and cameras that made truth impossible to bury. There's a strange comfort in that knowing accountability doesn't rely on someone's opinion once evidence shows up. But I still think about it sometimes when I walk through crowded places, how fast authority can turn into assumption if nobody checks it. So let me ask you something honestly. If you'd been there watching that scene unfold, would you have pulled out your phone and recorded, or would you have kept walking because it wasn't your problem? And do you think that officer was protecting the public or protecting his pride the moment he decided not to verify? Tell me what you think. I really want to hear your take. And if you've ever seen something like this happen in real life, share it, because stories like this only matter if we talk about them.